Okay. Can I please ask all officers and guests who join you remotely to turn off their cameras so only councillors, lay members or co-opted members are on the screen? You're asked to turn on your camera when presenting reports or responding to questions, but please turn them back off after your item is finished. So hello and welcome to Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council Social Services Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday the 12th of September 23. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes. So moving on to the agenda then. So agenda item 1, apologies for absence. We have none because we're all here. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members or officers have any interest they wish to declare? Okay, agenda item 3. So this is the annual report from Social Services. And I know as a committee, we had a workshop in August where we had an opportunity to look back on how well the department has been working and how well services are delivered to meet the needs of service users. So I'll hand you over to Cabinet Member Julia Jenkins.
I am, am I? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the annual report on social services 2022 to 2023. And the author of the report is Lisa Curtis-Jones, who's present today. Right. Summary report. This report is to provide information regards the Social Services Annual Report for 2022 to 2023. In April 2016, we saw the implementation of the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act 2014. This was a significant piece of legislation designed to change the relationship between the local authority, its partners, organisations and the public. As part of the Act, a new performance framework was introduced. The new framework has since been revised and has resulted in further changes to the data and information we collect and the way in which we collect it. We are now required to gather additional information and reports on the differences we are making on people's lives. A workshop took place with Scrutiny members in August 2023 to explore the summary of the report, looking at the progress we made on last year's priorities and consulting on the priorities set for the year ahead. And the recommendations are that the Scrutiny Committee members note and debate the contents of the Social Services Annual Report 2023. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Did any officers coming in? Did they want to say anything, Lisa? Yes, please.
The red or green?
Yeah. Just to add that there was consultation for rebalancing care and support, and part of that consultation was to look at the annual report and how the director reports on the priorities for the year. So the consultation for that is just closed, and we're having feedback now over the next couple of weeks. There's a workshop which Judith Brooks, the business support manager, will attend, and this will be the last iteration of this report that you'll see it like this now. In future a bit more proactive, I want to say, but it's sort of like digital stories and things like that. I think the purpose is that it'll be mean more to the public rather than it just be a document with lots of writing in it, if that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. So open it up for questions then, please. Yep. Ian, if you...
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thomas, thank you.
On page 10, page 5 in brackets, fifth dot, you say support was offered to care homes and to carers throughout the pandemic and continues now. I was just wondering if you could give me some examples of this support.
So a lot of the support during the pandemic was obviously we were keeping in touch on a virtual basis. There was PPE support. We were obviously monitoring. We were helping with testing, basically trying to keep morale sort of as high as we could, really. I mean, Christy's probably best to answer the support that's going into the care homes at the minute because she's managing that service. Do you want to pick something up, Christy?
So obviously recently I've taken over as RI for the 3 Merthyr run care homes. I visit the care homes, each of the care homes, a minimum of once a week. I'm usually there for a day, so I meet with staff, I meet with the residents, I meet with families. We've done some feedback days for families and for residents in the care homes to find out what's working, what's not working, any feedback they've got for us, any changes they can suggest to us. We interact with CIW with the inspections and make sure that if there are any notifications as a result of an inspection, that we're actioning those quickly. So, you know, we're doing a lot more work around listening to people, listening to our residents and listening to their families or carers. And that support is ongoing.
On page 16, you refer to two, well, one there and one later on, two awards that have been received. Passion for Practice Development Group received a commendation at the Social Care Accolade Awards. I'd like to say congratulations to all concerned for that. And also the award that was won on the Pathway to Work Gold Award. These awards are not easy to come by, and I'd like to congratulate everybody concerned in achieving them. That's it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Does anybody else want to come in with any questions?
I was interested at page 68, they mentioned the Stay Well at Home team. I can say it works really well in Merthyr, in A&E. Are there any, how is it funded? Is it half funded by social services and half by the hospital? Or, you know, because I was wondering in the next financial year, what's the probability? I think they review it every year. And I wonder, is it going to continue, do you think, next year? Because it really is effective.
Shall I take that one, Councillor Tevy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so as you'll be aware, originally it was funded out of the Integrated Care Fund, which was through the Regional Partnership Board. The Integrated Care Fund is now the Regional Integrated Fund, the RIF. So Stay Well at Home has continued to be funded. The plan was that we build it into core budget. So for Merthyr, we have done that. So we've built it into core budget and we've got the funding ongoing for Stay Well at Home. It is a project that health and the local authorities want to keep because they see the benefit of it and how it helps with, you know, discharge from hospital and also preventing people going into hospital longer term. So it is part of the plan. We're currently reviewing all the RIF funding through adult services through the Regional Partnership Board, but that is one of the priorities to continue.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, Councillor Tubby. Do you have any other questions? No. Okay. Councillor Salmon, was there anything you wanted to ask? Oh,
Chair.
sorry, can you say that again?
Questions? No.
Oh, right. Lovely.
Thank
Thank you. I've got a question. I'm not quite sure who I'm directing it to. Lisa, I'm guessing it's you. It's in relation to the Ageing Well plan. Because I know we mentioned it briefly in the workshop about like taking this forward. Is there a plan in place now on how to take this forward? Because obviously I'm conscious because the funding for the post is time bound, I believe. So that's and I know obviously there's been a delay in things. So I just want to know like what is the plan?
Okay, so a lot of that work is now being picked up within the Regional Partnership Board arena. We have got a post to specifically look at the plan, which sits under corporate currently. So it's a bit of a oddity really, because in theory, because we manage the strategy, it should sit under us. So part of the report that will come to you in the future around adult structure will probably address that within that report to look at where that sits so that we can then look at the detail and take that forward then in the future.
Okay, great. Because just thinking really, because we've got like the corporate parenting board, I didn't know whether there was any value in looking at to have that Ageing Well board with those like others where we could perhaps other authorities perhaps could benchmark against other agencies who work well. I don't know, perhaps putting it out there as a suggestion, maybe like an older person's board.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So we'll look at that.
Okay, great, lovely. I didn't have any questions. Are there questions? So, Claire? No, open it up for comments then. Any comments? Councillor Declan Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. I just one thing, and it's I think it's on page 6 in the report, and I think I said the same thing last year, and it's in regards to children looked after. And a big thank you and well done must be given to the staff, to be honest, to keep the numbers, keep them down, so they're not increasing year on year. But the amount, I think it's obvious the work that you're doing with the amount of assessments that you're doing every year. The figures are there for the last 5 years, so they're increasing exponentially really over the last 5 years. But that early help that you were given to families is working, and a big well done, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Any other comments? Councillor Ian Thomas.
Just a couple of quick comments, Chair. Page 21, adult services, demand for care home places. I was surprised that you could ever make an assumption that there would be a reduced demand for care home places, given the aging population and the increased amount of dementia that we're facing. And secondly, page 62 makes an important point on trying to run a service using various grants or pots of funding, which makes it difficult to plan forward when those bits of funding may not be available in the longer term. And just a point I want to make really is that funding does need as much certainty as possible in order to enable officers and councillors to plan properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any other comments? Okay. Councillor Gareth Richards.
Thank you, Chair. No, just a comment. I've to say I found the workshop very useful. I think this possibly the first time we've had the workshop prior to the report coming forward to us, and I think this is why I think there's been perhaps a lack of any questioning here because we dealt with it in the workshop.
Thanks, Councillor Richard. Yes, I agree. I think we covered a lot and we asked lots of questions in the workshop. So yeah. Comments from me really. I think on page 28, oh sorry, Councillor Richards, have you finished?
Yeah, my hand is down, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. I think because you've stated in the report about what a difference you've made to people's lives, and it's just a comment really, some of the examples that I picked up through the report, which are really good in relation to support and change team. One of the comments, I'm so grateful the support I received, have gone really well. My support and change worker, the support I received has helped me to change my life. And I'll never go back to being the person I once was. And there's loads of really good examples of that where you've said, what difference have we made to people's lives? And like obviously you've listed quite a few, like with the support and change team, and there's been like some like views of the family. So yeah, it was just I wanted to comment really. There's some really good examples throughout there of that difference, and I think you've captured that really well. Any other comments on this? Okay, Councillor Ian Thomas.
In relation to what Gareth just said about how useful the workshop was, I think we do need to give a little bit of thought about what's appropriate for the workshop and what's appropriate for the actual committee, because what seems to have happened here is nearly all the important business has already been dealt with in the workshop and is now being skipped over. So I think we need to give a little bit of thought to the sequence of what we're doing. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I take on board what you said, but I think if the first time we were looking at this was today, I think we would be here quite a long time. And I think that you're right, there needs to just be that balance and that we're not skipping over information. But I think we pretty much covered all of this in the workshop. And I know some of the things that we spoke about, I can see like transferred onto this draft as well. So I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Thomas, but I think maybe we could maybe offer either like a catch-up session or something if there's been a workshop and you haven't been able to attend, or maybe we can send some feedback out from the workshop to those members who didn't attend. I don't know, but I think, yeah, definitely it's worth looking at. Definitely. Thank you. Okay, lovely. There's no other comments on that, but yeah, thank you, and thanks for your time as well at the workshop. And I know, you know, it was a long afternoon, but I think we all who attended found the benefit of it. Okay, great. So agenda item 4 is the annual social services report on complaints, representations and compliments. I'll hand you over to Councillor Julia Jenkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a report. The author is Gaynor Lewis, who's with us this afternoon, and it's the annual report of social services complaints, representations and compliments 2022 to 2023. The summary report. Local authorities are required by Social Services Complaints Procedure Wales Regulations 2014 and Representations Procedure Wales Regulations 2014 to produce an annual report about the operation of the Social Services Complaints, Representations and Compliments Policy and Procedure. This report highlights the key points contained in the annual Social Services Complaints, Representation and Compliments Report, a copy of which is attached on Appendix 1. The recommendations. Scrutiny will explore the findings of the annual report, Social Services Complaints, Representations and Compliments 2022 to 2023, and, where appropriate, offer suggestions to strengthen future reports. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jenkins. Gaynor, are you going to come in for this, please? Thank you.
Okay, if I carry on with the introduction and the background, the first sort of few pages is the background to why we put the complaint together and our procedures within the complaints department, and now we aim to provide a streamlined complaints arrangement across the authority to provide consistency then for complainants. Again, during the coronavirus pandemic, social services, like other departments, have adapted their ways of working to ensure services can be delivered in a safe way. And this has been the same with the complaints department as well. This has meant working from home, but we've brought in a new way of meeting with the complainants, which is Teams, which has been able to be more fair for people who can't come into the civic centre, and also for them to have sometimes some support with them as well. So where we were, 4.1, the annual report for 21-22 showed that we received a total of 115 complaints, and this is summarised in the table shown. And where we are now, if we go to 0.5, we'll see that where we are, the amount of complaints that we've received, 56 stage 1s for adult services, 88 children's services, and we've only had 1 stage 2. Again, the background to that would be the amount of work that's put in at the stage 1 by the managers in order to progress to stage 2, which the complainants have an option to do through the social services complaint process. But we have to be clear then on the desired outcome about escalating it. So what we find in that the amount of work that the managers are putting in with the complaints department at stage 1 is reducing the amount of complaints that's going to stage 2 then. Which is great, because that means we've managed to come to some sort of resolution at stage 1. So for comparison, if you look at 5.2, the service areas over the last couple of years, adult services have increased during 22-23, but we did have an issue with our direct payment supplier, which then produced a number of extra complaints coming. Not all came through the complaints department, so I don't think these reflect all of them, but these are the ones that were addressed through the complaints process. And children's services have had a slight increase at stage 1. where we want to be for a variety of reasons. 6.1, people who make a complaint about the service they receive. It's important to anyone who makes a complaint about our services that they have a right to be listened to properly, with their concerns resolved quickly and effectively. And this is what we're hoping that we'll do in the complaints department. At stage 1, the local authority usually offer to discuss either face-to-face or telephone meetings or by Teams. And then obviously complaints that are progressed to stage 2 are normally more complex in nature and often contain several components of dissatisfaction. What we need to, if I skip now, what we need to do next. Social services provide support to the most vulnerable people in the community, often in very difficult situations, and routine deliver effective services. Sometimes, however, for a variety of reasons, people will make a complaint about the service they receive, which they have the right to do. It is important that anyone who makes a complaint about our services have a right to be listened to properly, with their concerns hopefully resolved quickly and effectively. In addition, it's important that local authorities learn then from these complaints and, when necessary, use them to identify where services should be changed. So that sort of takes us through some of the points. I won't read them all out, what we need to do next, but that's on that. I can go there if you wish to straight to the report. Okay, so if we go to the annual report, social services complaints, page 3 would be an introduction, and then page 4, 5, 6 and 7 give you a background to our complaint process. And you know, the categories that we then put the complaints into when we receive them. Page 8 then are the themes as well. If we go to page 9, again, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more breakdown on the data that I just mentioned. So in stage 1, you can see how many were not upheld or upheld. Investigation not merited, or investigation discontinued. Usually discontinued is when the complainant have asked to withdraw their complaint. And then stage 2, we didn't have any stage 2 children's services during this time, but we did have one for adult services, which was not upheld. So what the data tells us on page 10 is a little bit more of a background to that. Also, in addition to that, we do sometimes have contact from the public who may have had a complaint previously with the complaints department, and they might ask for a service, or they might ask to speak to somebody. We don't put them down as complaints. That's a request. So we wouldn't document them down as a complaint because they're not. Page 11 is a graph giving the background to the information. So is page 12 takes you on to the trend then, and another graph. Okay. Page 13 tells you a little bit in detail about what is stage 2 and how many stage 2s that we've had. There has been a decrease of stage 2s with children's services compared to the previous year. But we've only had one with adult services, and again, that was not upheld. To my knowledge, although they do have a longer time scale, none of these that I'm aware of went to the Ombudsman, and there's been no indication from the Ombudsman that any of the complaints that we hadn't taken to stage 2 should have been taken. So there's none that I'm aware of at this time. Again, there's a trend data. If I take you to continuous improvement, which is more the detail about the complaint, and they've been categorised into themes. So you can see with both children's services and adult services, what the complaints have been about in more detail. Page 16 will advise you that we have currently one complainant on vexatious. That's due to persistently pursuing a complaint that has been previously addressed, and they've exhausted the local authority's complaint process, and therefore we wouldn't be in a position to keep on investigating that. If they do continue with that approach, then this is what would result in being vexatious. As you can see, we've only got one person on vexatious, and that takes a lot of time to get to that point, and we do try and manage the communication from persistent complainants before we would make them subject to our vexatious policy. The bottom of page 16 will tell you in detail about verbal, written and abuse from members of the public. Unfortunately, again in 2022 to 2023, I can see a typo over there. There was a significant increase in both verbal and written abuse received from members of the public. This have also included invasive filming of staff without their consent. You know, the council does expect employees to be treated with courtesy and respect, and therefore abusive behaviour from members of the public will not be tolerated. The Complaints Department, along with assistance to the Legal Department, have been supporting managers with dealing with abusive and aggressive members of the public. During training with the Ombudsman, they fully endorse and adopt a zero tolerance approach to this unacceptable behaviour. In 2022-23, it became necessary for the local authority to ban from the building a number of members of the public following incidents whereby it had been necessary to call the police even. We have now placed signs, following this, we've now placed signs in the public area of the Civic Centre advising members of the public that abusive and aggressive behaviour will not be tolerated. Page 17 will give you a breakdown of the outcomes with the complaints that we had, and that's followed on page 18 with a graph. Page 19, positive compliments. We always look forward to having compliments in the complaints department, and we do always encourage departments to send them through. We had 57 compliments and positive comments which were formally recorded during 22-23, and this was an increase of 7 on the previous year. We still encourage departments that when they and page 19 going through to 20 will are some examples of some of the compliments that we've had. Obviously we couldn't put them all on there, but we still, like I said, encourage the compliments to be sent through, and this was discussed in part of the training that we had with the Ombudsman as well, where we encouraged managers and staff to send through any form of compliment that they've had from a member of the public. Another important aspect of our department are lessons learned. It is crucial that we learn from complaints at all stages of the procedure, and we adopt a positive, we continue to adopt a positive attitude towards complaints and to learn from them as well. There are some examples then of actions that have arose from outcomes of investigations of complaints, and I've summarised them on page 19 through to page 20 through to 21. And then that comes up to the conclusion then at the end. Again, we continue to offer yearly free training that the Ombudsman provides to us, which is done on Teams. This will continue through to this current financial year, and it's offered out to councillors as well, should they wish to attend. And it does give us some sort of reassurance from the Ombudsman office that we're doing everything right, hopefully, and if we're not, then how we can put things right. And that brings to the end the report for 2022-23.
Lovely, thank you for that. Opening up members' questions there, please. Councillor Ian Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that report. It was very well explained. I just got 2 little points. With the stage 2 unresolved complaint, would you have referred that person to the Ombudsman then?
Yes, when they have a response from the complaints department, we automatically put at the end of every stage 2 response letter the option they have, and we provide the Ombudsman details as well.
All right, thank you. And the other one was page 74.52, statistics. You have partially answered that. It's the point that the adult services complaints have risen from 37 in 1920 to 57 in 22-23, quite a large increase. Now, you did explain that you had some issues with direct services department. So presumably those issues will have been resolved, and are we likely to see the level of complaints now falling back to what they were?
Yes, I agree. I would like to see, I mean, so far this year, I can say there's certainly a decrease on the complaints for adult services than there was in 22-23. So far in annual year 23-24, there's been a decrease.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I wondered, this person that was making the vexatious complaint, have they been to the Ombudsman
the only way I can answer this is they've been everywhere. They've been to legal, they've been to the Ombudsman,
Oh, well,
they've been to the Welsh Government, and unfortunately, I don't think there's ever going to be an end to her
oh,
being placed on the vexatious report,
no, well,
because the complete
they've done
reluctance to
everything.
accept the outcome,
Oh,
which
well,
we
that's
can't
good then.
change.
That's good, yeah. The other thing is, do you find a lot of the complaints are related to the fact that you can't act fast enough? I know working in the hospital, people are looking after the relatives for a long time, and they get to the end of the tether and they say, we've had enough. They bring them to the hospital. There's not a lot we can do acutely, and say, oh, well, get in touch with social services. Do you find a lot of the complaints originate because it's hard to act quickly?
Yes, yeah. I think that a lot of complaints are sometimes out of frustration, like you've explained.
Yeah.
And as you know, as our role is in complaints, is to understand why they have that frustration. And for them, that's just their case, isn't it? We might be dealing with lots and lots of cases, but for them, this is just the particular. They're not worried about anybody else. They're worried about that. So I think that we try and be realistic. We always advise them of timescales, you know, and keep them up to date with communication. So if we feel that it's going to take it out to the timescale, we do keep that line of communication open, because I think for myself, there would be nothing more frustrating than putting a complaint in and hearing nothing. You'd want to know that it's still being dealt with. But yes, I think a lot of the time it is people are not ringing back quick enough, or people are not, but they don't realise that or appreciate that that social worker might have a number of cases to be dealing with.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tubby. We've got Councillor Gareth Richards on Teams next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again for the report. It was very, very clear. Thank you. Just one question regarding, I was concerned about the increase in the adult services complaints, but obviously you've explained the possible reason for it. Do you have any figures there to show how much the financial complaints increased from the year before last to this current one?
Let me just go on to the yes, if you look at page 15 for me on the report, so I'm not sure, it's
Right.
continuous improvement. You can see the financial issues for children's services, we didn't have any, but for
Yeah.
adult services, we had 20.
Yeah.
But
How does that compare then with previous year? Would you know, or?
I would probably say, off the top of my head, that's probably, perhaps previous years, we might have had about 4 or 5.
Right, yeah, yeah. What I was trying to look for is that could, as you've explained, is the main reason for the increase in the number of complaints?
I'm confident, looking at my data in more detail, that obviously I haven't put on the report here.
Yeah.
I'm confident it was due to that issue.
Yeah. And things seem to have settled down in the area that the complaints were related to?
I don't want to tempt fate, but at this point, yes.
Yeah. I think from my councillor role, I've experienced that. So it has been very quiet. Thank you, Gaynor.
That's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Next, we've got Councillor Claire Jones.
Thank you. First of all, Gaynor, again, comprehensive, you know, well done, thank you, and thank you for the team as well. Let me just get to my questions for a minute. On 6.6, you know, you've got the communication issues, including failure to respond within appropriate timescale to messages and failure to update. Is there an actual timescale, you know, because if there's a failure, at what point is somebody going to turn around and say, well, they've already been failed and they still haven't had that communication? So is there like a timescale that you have to respond, please?
I have a timescale within the complaint process for social services. We need to acknowledge within 2 working days, and we need to respond within 15 working days, or at least offer a meeting with the, obviously sometimes we can't get that meeting in within 15 working days. But what we do, which is supported by the Ombudsman, is that we have an option to extend and ask for an extension. So as long as we get that extension to them before we've passed, before that timeline or time scale, then we couldn't be criticised by the Ombudsman then for not keeping the complainant up to date.
Yeah, because my next question, it rolls into my next question. When a person does make a complaint, are they made fully aware of the timescale? So do they get that letter that goes out saying you should have this, you should have this, and there's a clear process for them to understand?
Yeah, every complaint that we receive in the complaints department, whether social services or corporate, they have an acknowledgement email letter, depending on what route that they've come through. That acknowledgement will advise them, will come from the complaints in email address, and give them that for a line of communication. It will tell them when the manager will be endeavour to respond to that, but we also provide, without fail, every time a copy of our social services complaint process as well, policy. So they have a copy of the policy, whether on email or by letter. I'd say majority these days are by email, but we provide a copy of that. So they are completely up to date. They're completely informed of when to expect a response.
Okay, thank you. And I'll make a comment later, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Declan Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Gaynor. It's in regards to one of the complaints made, lack of communication, and it's every year. It's one of the higher kind of ranking number of complaints. Now, obviously, we don't have a breakdown on exactly how many have been upheld in that, but because it's quite high every year. Now, we will admit children's social services is a very, very emotive subject, so it does affect families deeply. But are these justified? Bearing in mind that one of the things that you do is help departments learn from past mistakes and how to deal with complaints. So are these lack of communication with the families in regards to children's social services justified?
In a number of cases, I'd say yes, they probably are, because it's keeping that complainant, keeping that complainant updated, or that person, the parent, updated. I don't think that it's very difficult, because the social worker might, some of the meetings that we have, for example, would be, I was told I was going to have a phone call back by Tuesday, and I think for as long as we keep on possibly over-promising and under-delivering, then we'll have these complaints. So I think it's just, when we have meetings with the managers with these complainants, it's really to keep the social workers. Some might actually have gone on the sick, and they're not aware. We wouldn't uphold that, but I can understand they would put a complaint in then. Perhaps somebody's finished, one of the social workers finished, and then there's no communication, so that they will come to us. So I'd say in some cases, yes, but not all the time.
Okay, so sometimes it would be about managing the family's expectations as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
Really, we should be getting that across as well, because yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, one other question, Chair. In regards to team meetings that you have with families, what's the feedback on that? Are they better for the families? Is it easier for them to meet on Teams, or?
I think, with the meetings, I'd say if we could hold them every single time a complaint is put in, with the agreement of the complainant, I think they're the most productive way to address a complaint. I think this is why probably a lot of the complaints haven't gone to stage 2. It's because of these meetings, because sometimes it can be misunderstanding. It can be, what their expectations were of something. I think as soon as we meet with the families, and sometimes these meetings can last 45 minutes, sometimes we're in there 2 hours. It's an opportunity for them to express the frustration that they have as families as well. I mean, they have, if they feel perhaps somebody have spoken to them in a patronising manner, they're entitled to that perception. But sometimes it's good to sit down around a table and explain that probably wasn't the way it was meant to come across. And that's why a lot of the time that we get resolutions from those meetings.
Okay, lovely. Gaynor, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any open up for comments? You want to? Yeah, Councillor Julia Jenkins.
I'd just like to say thank you to Gaynor for the report. I've worked in a lot of different areas, and complaints and compliments are very important. And they've obviously been upheld and looked into it, and only to reach stage 1. And as a councillor, we've been inundated with complaints from direct payments for months, and it seems to have subsided now. But I know families suffered greatly because some people, the actual carers, then went to look for other jobs. So, you know, and it wasn't our fault. And also apologies to Lisa, not thanking her for her annual report and the awards that social services won, but they were hard work and enthusiastic staff. So thank you both.
Thank you, Julia. Councillor Declan Salmon.
Chair, just quickly, this to Gaynor. I have dealt with you on a couple of occasions over the years. You know, passing on complaints, and you've always dealt with them really well. Thank you for the work you do, and it can't be an easy one, to be honest. Thank you.
Councillor Clay Jones.
Working in children's services anyway,
To get a compliment in itself, whether it's from an adult service or a children's service, I think the person that has the compliment needs to be congratulated, because it is it's a very tough area to be working in anyway. And I just think that do the individuals who do receive the compliments actually get the compliment so they can see it?
Yeah.
Because it is hard, you know, and whether you get a complaint or you get a compliment, you always think, can you do better? Have I done things right? With the complaints, does the individual, if it is going to an individual, does that individual get support? Please.
I mean, first of all, for compliments, I can state that when I was going through the inbox of all of them, because I moved them in, that I had to sort of take it, you know, delete so many, because the compliments had gone to managers and then they'd gone to Lisa, and each one Lisa had said, well done, fantastic, thank you. And I think when you are working in such a difficult environment, to have from, you know, the director, well done, thank you, it can turn a day back upright.
Of course it can.
So this is why we promote, you know, the compliments coming in. With a complaint never goes to that individual. A complaint always goes to the manager. So this is why then the manager has time to sit down with the social worker in social services and have a chat about it. No social worker comes to those meetings. It's usually the manager that will come to those meetings, because we don't want those meetings to turn into a bit of a brawl, do I say? Especially, you know, and it is very difficult in children's services, because with adult services, they want the social worker in their life. In children's services, they don't want the social worker in their life. So what we try and do is improve the relationship through the manager and through complaints. And it's a rarity that we would change a social worker. I think possibly only one complaint I can think of where we've done that in the last year. But overall, it's to support the person who's being complained about as well, so they don't go home feeling too despondent at the end of the day, because people will complain, especially children's services, you know.
How many people are, because the last time we spoke, Gaynor, you know, you were sort of a one-woman band. Are we still looking at the one-woman band, or have you got people helping you now?
I got a colleague who comes who helps me in complaints.
Yeah.
She's a cracking admin person, very good, so I wouldn't want to lose her. She does support with a lot of the administration that we have. I wouldn't be able to do it on my own, I'll be honest. With the administration, I do all the meetings, and the meeting the face-to-face or the complainant over the phone. But I'm quite happy to do that side of it as long as she sort of helps me then with the administration. She is very good, very good.
Well done, because I take my hat off to you doing it now. So thank you very much.
I think just for us in the complaints is the support that we've had over the last year with the abuse that not just we are having, but all frontline staff are having. And I think as long as we continue with this zero tolerance of, you know, I'll always take an element of frustration into account when it comes to complaints, but it is a line. And once they cross that line, we have to sort of tail them in then. And legal are very good with that.
Lovely, thank you, Gaynor. And you need to leave now, yeah?
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Okay, agenda item 5 then is the update on the implementation of the day services, and I'll hand you over to Cabinet Member Julia Jenkins for this.
Thank you, Chair. This is a report written by Adult Services, Christy Williams. An update on the implementation of day services strategy. A summary of the report. The report outlines the progress that has been made in respect to the day service strategy. This includes the introduction of a referral process into Learning Disabilities Day Service. The introduction of opportunity planners who work with individuals to develop person-centred plans, getting to know the individual and their personal outcomes, exploring potential opportunities to and setting out how this is achieved. The actions that have been taken to change the offer and an outline of the next steps. The purpose of the report. The content of this report be discussed and noted. Scrutiny reviews the process to date and comments on future reconfiguration of the daytime opportunity offer to better meet the wellbeing outcomes of people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Julia. Christy, are you going to come in on this now? Just a bit of an overview, and then I'll open up for questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's fine. So where we were over the last year, we spent the first sort of 3 months looking at what our existing provision within particularly learning disabilities day services was and how we thought we could better support people to achieve more in the future. So we came to Scrutiny, I think it was last November, to talk about our plans to develop the opportunity planner roles, to work with the people that we support, to look at what they want, how we can support them to achieve that, and you know how we support people to move forward to actually achieve their personal outcomes. So where we are now, we've had redevelopment work done in TMV, so I know councillors have been to view that. We're in the process of my mind's just gone blank, of a bid for Welsh Government similar work to be undertaken in Unit 1 to further develop that to better support the outcomes of the people that access that service. We've continued to work with People First, who are a peer advocacy organisation who support people with learning disabilities. So we've gone through a process of them working with us, with the people we support, to look at what they want, how that needs to look, and developing questionnaires, developing the roles of the opportunity planners, and how that referral process into day service looks and what that means for people. That's been really positive so far. We're already embedding those opportunity planners into Greenfield schools so that we got good links to start working with people from around the age of 15 or 16, so that when they're coming through into adult services, it's not an automatic assumption that everyone will go into a bricks and mortar day service. We understand and recognise the young people want and deserve more, and how we support them to achieve those goals and realistic goals that they've got. We've started kind of doing some of that volunteering work ourselves. So a lot of you have been to visit the greenhouses project, and we've set up some gardening groups in some of our care homes where some of the people who access our greenhouses project are doing some work in the gardens with the residents of the care homes. They've built a greenhouse in one of the care homes, and they're continuing to work with the individual residents in the care homes. We're also going to be looking at kind of a befriending. So one of the gentlemen from the greenhouses who currently has been visiting one of the care homes, he's almost been adopted by the residents of the care home. So we're going to look at a volunteering opportunity for him to go and spend a day a week there, just sitting and chatting with the residents, having a coffee with them, because we recognise that it's something that the staff don't always have time to do, because it is a busy place, and just having that opportunity to sit and talk to people, really. Where we want to be, it's about where we go in the future. So we've got a clear process of referral for learning disabilities day services, and how that looks for people coming through transition, and also people who may not have accessed services previously. We see the opportunity to link this in with our older people services, to look at, you know, how we better meet those needs within older persons day services, and also how we signpost people through mental health services to access different activities outside of that bricks and mortar. So we're already doing some of that work in looking at what's within our community that people are able to access that's not part of our existing day services, but people could access. So things like the opportunity planners have found workshops and groups and sessions for people to learn about internet safety, and they go to those in settings outside of the bricks and mortar ordinary day service, which actually also means that they're a part of their community and developing real friendships rather than forced friendships with people that they just automatically put with. So for us, it's about giving people a voice and actually promoting their ability to be really valued members of our community.
Lovely, thank you for that. Obviously, because we had our external visit last week, which was great, and I know the members who attended, we asked quite a lot of questions. But I think for the benefit to some of the members of the year who were unable to attend, I think we had a bit of a common concern that about the referrals and the referrals being low. But I think it would be good just to benefit the members who weren't there, like, you know, that split with health as well, and what's being done to kind of improve that. I think that would be really good.
Oh,
I know you've answered it once in the visit.
No, that's fine.
Okay?
Yeah, of course it is. Sorry.
Right.
So within the older person services, what we saw over the last year was we weren't getting the referrals into TMVIS that we previously had been. There had been some issues because it's a jointly run service that's commissioned by Health and Social Services. While the referrals were still coming in from a social services perspective, we weren't getting the referrals in from health. Part of that, we think, was as a result of there not being any health staff in work for a period of time. So we were managing with social care staff only. So we were very aware of not putting additional demands onto the staff and being able to manage and support appropriately the people who were accessing the service. Over the last probably 3 months, we've seen a significant improvement in the referrals coming in. And as part of the referral process that we've got for people going into learning disability services, we're going to look at implementing that into our older person service as well. So, you know, we have seen significant increase in people accessing TMVIS. Is that okay?
Lovely, thank you. Any questions, please? Councillor Tubby?
That's that very question, really. Thanks for asking it.
Unit 1.
Yeah.
I understand funding has gone in. What is the timescale? Because I mean, we've been in office for over a year now.
So this is something that I'm chasing up on a weekly basis. So every week I'm emailing health, because health are taking the lead because it's a health building. The last email I had, I think, was last week, where I was promised that the report would be done this week, ready to go into Welsh Government. So I've asked for feedback on that. I know Deb, who I was dealing with, she was on leave last week, so she has promised the report will be done this week. So I've asked her to keep me in the loop, but I'll email her again at the end of the week to ask for an update on that, because it is something that I keep going back to on a regular basis to find out where we are, because the difference, as you saw, between Unit 1 and TMVIS is huge, and it's not really fit for purpose for supporting people with really complex health and physical disabilities.
Can I just ask you, when you are successful, what happens? Because obviously I'm just thinking about the individuals who attend.
So
is there
what
somewhere else for them to attend?
So what we'll do at that point is we look at a consultation with families and people who use the service so that they're kept fully informed of the process. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. Rob is already scouring the local authority to look at us just having a base so that there's somewhere for people to go for that period of time. But for the majority, people are out on activities more than they're in anyway. So it would be more of a base somewhere to go and start and end the day.
I've just got another thing. Review our. You've got to review your requirements post-COVID for the older people and the learning disability. We're coming into the winter periods now, so are provisions in place for the individuals?
So we're back at capacity. You know, we're able to welcome people back. I've this week actually written detailed COVID guidance for the care homes and the day service settings based on the advice from Public Health Wales and contact tracing. So basically what they're saying is that unless people are considered clinically vulnerable, nobody should be tested, and that we're asking people, if you're feeling well or you've got a raised temperature, you don't come into services until you're feeling better, or don't have a temperature. So, you know, that message is, I've done it as a grab sheet, so it's very clear for staff what our position is, and we'll keep going to those webinars and change the guidance as we're directed by Public Health Wales and contact tracing.
I've got to say thank you, and I will say that I did attend the coronation where we had to stand outside for nearly 2 hours due to the fire alarms.
Yeah.
But I will say,
I think that was an issue upstairs somewhere, so I'm told. Yeah.
But thank you very much, and thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Councillor Salmon?
Thank you, Chair. This did start off as a compliment, but there's kind of two questions gone into it. It's about obviously the greenhouses, it is. The great work being done up there and the benefit it brings to the volunteers is obvious. And I think during it, you mentioned that you've been able to, at least one of the volunteers has been able to get paid work. So can you give a little bit on that? And also, can you, all the schools from Merthyr Tydfil go through there as well? If you could just update us on how many schools have been through it for all of them and kind of what they do as well.
As Councillor Salmon has sort of rightly said, we've been fortunate with the geological project that we have running within Cyfarthfa Greenhouses to offer paid placements for individuals that we've supported. So one particular gentleman that we've supported for about the past 5 to 6 years, he started having a service from us, very shy individual who over the period of the 5 years that we've worked with him has, you know, grown up considerably. I know the individual was reluctant, the family reluctant to look at work as an opportunity, so we were able to offer a safe, controlled environment for that individual to start to experience work. We now feel, or we've now, with the growth of that project and the funding from the Levelling Up fund, being able to go out and offer some further paid placements. Again, they're in a supported environment. They're the first step into employment for a lot of the individuals that we have, and it's starting to set examples that families can share with each other about what the process is and how safely it's managed and how it doesn't impact on benefits. It doesn't impact on how the families and the individuals have access to, you know, all the different types of benefits they have. We do a better off in work assessment, again, to alleviate any of the concerns that families have about somebody taking a step from, you know, in a conventional paid for day service and then stepping out into volunteering opportunities, stepping into the work, the world of work. So we're hoping that over the next year or so, we'll be able to put down some very clear, strong examples that we can relate to families, really importantly, at that transition stage when working with schools and managing the expectations as individuals come through from children's services through to adult services, I think we've recognised that managing expectations of families is really key. Also key to that process is looking at, having a number of options available for individuals so that if any one area falls short, there's still opportunities for individuals. They're not reliant on just day services, but they're not reliant on direct payments or anything like that. We've got a multitude of opportunities that they're accessing. Key to that role was, as Christie's rightly said, was the opportunity planners. Again, working at an early stage with families before they come into day services to look at what options are available for the individual on a bespoke basis. So we don't go in looking for, we'll move this person into day services, this person isn't accessing day services. We sit with the individual and the families to learn the voice of the individual and the direction that they want to go in, what the barriers to that are, what the obstacles are, and how we, help that person step over them. Sorry, the second part of your question.
Just a little bit of information on obviously schools go through the visit there, the geological part of it, look at fossils, which was quite interesting.
Cyfarthfa greenhouses, on the social services side of things, we run roughly 9 till 4, Monday to Friday. Our key role for the social services element in there is to support the individuals that are in conventional day services. We also have volunteers there. We are an open building, so we have a lot of the public come through the building, so we're dealing with public. A lot of the time we are having questions put to us from the public about the geological project, what else happens within Cyfarthfa greenhouses. So it's an opportunity for us to, share what happens in those greenhouses and then go into the bigger story. We found that a lot of the families that are coming in there with children have been brought back into the greenhouses by their kids because they've gone through the greenhouses with the schools. They've gone home, they've raved about, the activities that have been undertaken with the geological project and the other elements that happen there. And over the past year up to this point, I believe Ben Evans being the lead of the geological project, he's had well over 2,000 school children through the greenhouses. I think we've had visitor numbers again over 2,000 people in and out of the greenhouses. And then we have, as Christy said earlier, about the outreach that we do and the peer support stuff with our care homes. We're now going out from the greenhouses to deliver peer support within the T Gurnas and T Bargoed. We're also then looking at our other day service elements where we are offering support to TNVIS, and we're looking at the volunteering opportunities across our day services provision so that we move away from individuals accessing day services as a paid for service. We're looking at them accessing, for those individuals who can, accessing us on a volunteer basis, but also looking at what the rest of the local authority has on offer so that we can look for opportunities for volunteering for, the individuals that we support. I suppose what I'm saying is we need to put our money where our mouth is on there and offer these opportunities because they are individuals that have the least opportunity to step into paid for work. But the schools, very, very important part. I know the outreach program that Ben has and the activity that happens in the evening and on weekends, again, adds worth to those greenhouses because the building is being used, outside of our time. And as you know, the more something is used, the better value it offers the local authority. So yeah. Don't know if that's answered your question.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Rob. It was a very informative visit, very enjoyable and well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't remember. Were we still on questions? Well, we were still on questions, weren't we? Sorry, yeah. Any other questions? Open up for comments then. And it's just to echo what Councillor Sam said. It was really good. It was a hot day. It was a very hot day to be in the greenhouse, but no, it was lovely. And can you just thank everybody we spoke to as well, because they took time out of their day, and they you could tell that they really wanted to speak to us. So that was, and like to showcase some of the work they do in. Yeah, it was really enjoyable. Got loads out of it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Please come again.
Yeah, we will,
Always an
absolutely.
open door.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd just like to say, as I previously worked in day services in Sandbrook House, well, got 20 years ago, where seemingly everyone was like hidden away. And it's really nice to see it out in the community. And what was really impressive was the greenhouses. And what they were doing and selling what they were making. That was really good, that was, and I enjoyed it there. And every service I've been to, the day service, I've been welcomed. I've had nothing hidden from me, I hope. I've just been told every question I've asked, I've been answered. And it's really good news that referrals have increased as well, because it was such a shame to see TNVIS award-winning building empty.
Yeah, it is a lot busier.
Yeah, and you know, and good news that only Welsh Government got to give the go-ahead now for Unit 1. And just thank all the staff there as well, because everybody got their bit to play, haven't they? Yeah.
Thank you.
So Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. It's just following on from the Cabinet member, and it's for Christie in regards to TNFIS. And I believe that I've been up there 4 times now, I think, some of those as mayor, and I've also been to some of some of our care homes as well. And I've got to say, the work being done up there is absolutely fantastic. The staff are immense. And it's a very difficult setting, to be honest. It's quite sobering and upsetting, to be honest, because of the care it gives dementia. You know, to see, and I know when I've been into some of the units that I've met people that I actually know from my area. Don't know you. You know, it's and my hat off to you guys for doing that work, and long may it continue. And I think, as the Cabinet member mentioned, it's you know, that when it picks up and you're at full capacity, you know, I'm sure will benefit even more people. So thank you and well done.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you both.
Thank you.
And thanks again for allowing us to visit.
Anytime.
Great. So before we move on to item 7, I think it's okay for officers to go if you wanted to. Oh, item 6, sorry, the forward work programme. You can if you want. I'm not going to throw you out.
Well, stay there.
All right, okay.
Yeah, okay. Some time, isn't it?
Thank you all.
Yeah, drop the page. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, ta-da.
Bye. Thank you.
Ta-da.
See you in here tomorrow. No.
Okay, so item 6 is the forward work programme for our next cycle of meetings. So we've identified some topics, and obviously we have our quarterly technical meetings as well. And we had one today in relation to support the Cabinet work programme. So we've had a look at that today. If there's any emerging needs that we want to include. So I attended the Scrutiny workshop in July, and made some suggestions on how we track our recommendations, suggestions. So if you look at our forward work programme, like the cycle, like the calendar, I think we're going to possibly add a column down the side so we can track, you know, like when we've made a recommendation, you know, and we can just track and like close the loop on things, and it's a quicker way of it's like a bit of a quick win on how we can just see where we've added value, just a quick check. So that's something that we're going to do, which I think is good. And I think it'll be worth us with the aging well stuff, because that's time bound. I didn't know whether we wanted as a committee to add like the aging well plan onto our forward work programme as well, in the cycle, just so we don't lose track of it. Are we all happy with that? The aging well stuff, yeah, if we'll add that for consideration then.
So under additional items.
Additional items of consideration, and then I'll have a chat to Lisa to see then how we can build that in. Okay. Is there any questions or comments on the forward work programme? Are we all happy with it? Yeah. Okay.
And we've added that.
Oh yeah, we have added the review of adult care management structure into October the 24th. So there will be an additional item added on the 24th of October. In relation to item 7, the scrutiny work programme, I just think, as agreed, I think we've continued to build into the forward work programme those external visits, but it's a lesson learned for me today, and I think obviously Ian's mentioned it. I know Gareth Richards mentioned as well, like the lack of questions for some of the items, because we've had those workshops. So that's definitely something I think that we need to look at. Because if we have like a workshop, how are we feeding that back to everybody if everybody hasn't been able to attend? You know, because really thinking out, perhaps we could have shared like the outcome of the visit that we done. These are the questions that we asked, and I think perhaps that allows members there to ask perhaps additional questions. So that's something perhaps we'll have a think about, like workshop feedback, maybe, or
on the agenda, isn't it? Feedback
Yeah.
activities, so we could pick it up.
we could pick it up, yeah. But I'm just thinking just to circulate something, especially if we've got a visit and then a meeting within like a week, you know. But we'll have a look at that. So thanks for bringing that up, Ian, as well. Yeah, check, put your mic on, yeah. If you put your mic on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You made a point about maybe we should be asking more questions in this meeting. When we had the pre-meeting, the report was put on the screen in front of us all. So apart from having the questions prepared, we could follow the discussions with the report. Now, we didn't have that today, or we don't usually get that in the main meeting, but it might be useful to do that.
Yeah,
And that would enable questions to arise more easily from the debate if somebody is making a point on a certain part of the report. Just
Yeah.
a thought.
You know, you could bring your laptop in the meeting and use the ModGov.
Yeah, but that's not the same.
Yeah.
If you're pottering around with your own laptop, looking for
Mm,
where you're talking about, it's different to having a rolling report
okay.
exactly where you are on a report, if you know what I mean.
Okay. I think we can have a think about that, because like with the annual report of the complaints and things, there was lots of graphs and things, and I appreciate maybe we could look at something about sharing a screen and having the monitors on, and they could link up somehow. We can do that, can we? We'll have a chat about that, but yeah, we'll take that forward and just see if to make it easier, if we can just share stuff on the screen. That's great, but yeah, it's only today kind of clicked that if we'd having external visits and having all our questions answered, you know, it's the additional stuff then in the actual meeting as well. Okie dokie. Item 8, scrutiny referrals. We have none. And obviously just a reminder, if we've, you know, seen anything, common themes or anything with your casework, just bring that forward and we can have a look at it. Item 9, report recommendations. And it's just, again, do we feel that we met the recommendations of the report? Are we all happy that we've done that on all the reports? Item 3, item 4 and item 5. Are we happy that we've met the recommendations? Yeah. Okay, lovely. Item 10, feedback on scrutiny activities. Obviously, we know our visit to TNVIS and the Cyfarthfa Greenhouse was the most recent one, and definitely I benefited, and I know, you know, we've all commented, being there rather than reading a report definitely adds value. And I think getting to meet some of the day service users was really good, because they really wanted to showcase what they were doing, and that was brilliant. So we did have the scrutiny workshop in July, and I was the only one from Social Services Scrutiny that attended that. That was in Committee Room 3. But you know, we did look and we made some changes, and like I said, we're going to have the tracking column on the forward work programme, and we can review that at the end of the cycle to see if it's beneficial. And I'm not sure if there's going to be a catch-up session in relation to the scrutiny workshops that we had, whether there's going to be any sort of catch-up ones.
No catch-up ones planned.
Planned, okay.
We are working on some of the recommendations.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Other workshops penciled in, I believe we're waiting for information on the joint workshop in relation to COTS, DFGs, but that sits in another committee at the moment, so waiting on that. 5th of December, we've got a report coming to scrutiny on mental health services for adults and children, and we're going to be looking at an external visit. I know, Claire, you raised about possibly visiting some of the guys in Snakes and Ladders and things before that report, so that's something that we discussed in our meeting earlier to fit that in. And then in March, we'll be having in April, we're going to be having an updated report in relation to the Neighbourhood Learning Centre. So we'll probably just try and book in another visit in March before that.
I think the problem I've got is I only get a rota a month in advance.
No,
and if it's not,
yeah,
you know, it's quite hard for me there.
yeah,
To work. I can't turn around and say to everyone, you've got to work on my days off.
yeah. I think there's lots to be learned, especially from me as well, with external visits, is sharing that information from the external visit. And I think that's something I've definitely taken on board from today. Like, here's what was asked, this is what we found, and demonstrating that more. You know, because yeah, there's definitely a gap there that I'll have a look at. And again, obviously you would be able to see then, and for, you know, if you're not able to attend a workshop or visit, you can just see what was discussed, and then it'll give you the chance then just to ask any further exploratory questions in the meeting. So I'll go away and I'll have a look at that. So yeah. So item 11 is any other business. Oh yeah, sorry, Councillor Ian Thomas.
I'm just going to make reference to your comments on the scrutiny workshop in July. You're talking about the Welsh Local Government Association one?
Yeah, there was one online, wasn't there, on the Monday, and then the face-to-face one then on the Thursday,
Yeah.
where we discussed how to move forward.
Yes, I know what was on them.
Yeah.
But you've said a couple of times now you were the only one that attended.
On the Thursday, yeah.
No, but he didn't say the Thursday.
Right, apologies, it was on the Thursday.
I did want to clear the record on this. I did attend the first one, which was online, and there were hardly any councillors on there, and no senior councillors, hardly. There might have been one or whatever, but it was very poorly attended.
Yeah, apologies, Ian. Apologies, Ian. Yeah, I was making reference to the. I was making reference to the face-to-face session. I wasn't making reference to the online one on the Monday. So apologies for that.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, item 11, any other business? I have none, so meeting is closed. Thank you.